Welcome back to Wednesday and therefore Ask Uncle Lee. This is where you can ask any questions, just leave them in the comments below about the occult, spirituality, magic, witchcraft, etc., etc., etc. All right, so let's get into today's questions. First question is from Cthulhu1978. I think it's L6L or I6I, not sure. But anyway. So he asked, are there many gods and goddesses with their own wills and personalities, or is this just the one source acting as these different beings? Do they only exist because we made them, or did the source reveal itself and we interpreted as we saw it within our culture? Yes, and more. This is coming back to there is no one absolute truth. I know a lot of people come from a background where there is and has to be, this one absolute truth, but there isn't. There just isn't. Okay. So yes to all of that. So it depends on who you talk to and what their worldview is. And you can extend this further and further and further. You can keep adding to it. For instance, is there, are all of these gods and goddesses completely independent? Are they part of this source, this body? And where we have a body which is made up of millions, probably millions, of cells, and each cell is individual, yet they work together to make up the body itself, the unity. We could view that the same way. Is there a body which we consider to be a source, and within that source are all of the gods and goddesses parts of that soul? And that would include us and animals and trees and birds and plants and fish and everything else, because the entirety, everything in existence makes up the entirety of the body of that source. Are we that source? Each one of us, I consider to be our own universe. We are a universe in itself. We talk about the microcosm and the macrocosm, bringing the ideas together, uniting those two things. So we may consider ourselves to be this small entity in this vast cosmos, this vast universe. We're just a teeny tiny little speck. But at the same time, if we bring the macrocosm into, or the macrocosm into the microcosm, then we are that vast cosmos, that universe. And each one of us is that vast cosmos and universe, making up a multiverse, which we could then consider the entirety of the multiverse is the source. And then within each universe, within each one of ourselves, our own personal selves, exist everything. All of the gods and goddesses, all of the animals, the birds, the trees, and everything else, the angels, the demons, etc., within us, within the macrocosm which we consider, which is the microcosm. And that is in each and every person with makes up the multiverse. And the way we experience those entities, those gods and goddesses, the things that have become part of our own reality, is different to what somebody else may experience them, and therefore there is the same god or goddess, etc., in each person's universe for those people who have that entity, that thing has formed part of their own reality, but their experience is different, and therefore we have many, many different parallel dimensions, parallel universes that we can skip from and experience these different perspectives. What else did you say? Do they only exist because we made them? Absolutely. Why not? If we are if we are source, if I am source and you are source, and also let's rather say, if you are source, you made me, and I am here to tell you right now that there is no absolute truth, no absolute one truth. That's my entire purpose for my existence in your creation. But you are source. And everybody, everything that exists in the cosmos is you, but different aspects of you experiencing different things. That's another worldview. But have we just created the gods and goddesses as egregores? Absolutely, why not? Did they exist before us, before we existed? Absolutely, why not? What else did you say? Did the source reveal itself and we interpreted as we saw it within our culture? Absolutely, why not? And each person will interpret and have a personal experience and interpret and have a perspective that is totally different to their neighbor. And therefore, each culture will have an interpretation and perspective which is different to their neighbor, the neighboring culture. And yes, so this is why we can't. If you're trying to look for that one absolute truth, the only truth for you is your truth. But it doesn't mean that somebody else's truth is wrong. It just means they have a different truth. They have a different worldview. They have a different perspective on everything. They have a different experience. And that's what starts to create our own personal perspectives. So, absolutely, yes. Okay. Probably confused the hell out of you. I don't know. But that's really the only answer we can give. All right. So I'm going to move on. RCBM. Hi Lee, could you tell us a bit more about the goddess and god in Wicca? What is your perspective? Who exactly are these entities? Thanks. So the god and the goddess are just the god and the goddess. They have been given various names by different covens within Wicca itself. If I remember correctly, Goddess Wicca. I think the pharaohs was Kaninos and Aradia. And Aradia originates from Charles Leland's Aradia Gospel of Witches. But in others, it may be Diana. Aradia was the daughter of Diana and Lucifer within the Leland's book Gospel of Witches. But that was a huge influence on Gardner's craft. But really, and I'm not a Wicca myself. I'm not initiated Wicca, so there's possibly more to this that I do not know about and will never know about until if I get initiated into a Gardnerian coven. But from my understanding, it's really just the god and goddess. Gardner considered or viewed the goddess as multifaceted. I will say the idea that Gardner created the maiden mother crone archetype is false. That actually came from Robert Graves' The White Goddess. Even in Aradia, Leland's book, there is an understanding and an allusion to the idea that the goddess is multifaceted, but there's no actual naming of this mother maiden crone archetype that I'm aware of anyway. I have had a look into it and can't find it. So that idea came from Robert Graves' The White Goddess. So it wasn't, people are going on about it. It was created by Wicca and Gardner. It wasn't, from what I can tell. So yeah, he considered the goddess to be multifaceted, and her consort was the horn god. And at one point, they didn't really even have names. They were just the god and the goddess, or the lord and the lady. And it largely comes from this idea of Dion Fortune. It was Dion Fortune who said all gods are one god and all goddesses are one goddess, and there is one initiator. And that formed a large part of Wicca, as far as I know. So it is it's a very dualistic or duoistic. I'm always a bit uncertain of the difference between the two. But there is a large emphasis on the masculine and the feminine within Wicca, and you have the god and the goddess. So it's a very dualistic type of religion itself. And yeah, who are they? as I said, just the Lord and the Lady, the God and the Goddess, because in their understanding, there is only one God and one Goddess, and then the initiator. So we could say the source and then the God and the Goddess. All gods that we consider to be gods are part of this one God. All goddesses are part of this one goddess. And therefore they can have multiple names. But as far as I remember, in the Pharaohs anyway, it was Konunos and Aradia. Um, that those are the names that were given them. But other covens, that they could be named other things, but they are still considered just the god and the goddess, or the lord and the lady. That's as far as I can go with my own understanding and interpretation anyway. Let me just do one more, because then I've got 3 for next week. This is from Crimson Court 9354. Hi, could you give some insight on why a certain demon deity would be mad at a person? Someone said I've angered a certain powerful demon, and I'm not even sure why. I think I did have a brief discussion with you on this, and my immediate thought was that it's somebody who is trying to embezzle you out of some money, saying that you've angered this demon and they can help you rectify the situation as long as you pay them X amount of money. And as far as I remember, you said that was correct. This is a scam that we find all over the place, and it's not just this. There's various you're all of a sudden somebody will solicit you in your inbox, your DM or whatever, saying that they've got this message from your ancestors, or you have been cursed. They can remove your curse, all of this stuff, but you have to pay them, and it's just a scam. So you don't pay any attention to this. Could a demon or deity be angered with you? Could you have angered them? You could have, but you would probably be aware of it and know what you've done. Just this random kind of like, you've pissed off a demon. You don't even know who it is. You don't know what you've done. That's very, very unlikely, because you would have had to have an interaction. And usually in that case, it's if you make an oath or something like that, and you do not keep your promise, they may be pissed off with you for that. In other cases, they're just going to kind of sit back and the problem with oaths is, if you do not keep your promise, you're the one who ties your energies to the oath, and therefore your energy is going to be stuck and it's not going to keep moving. So really, you're just doing yourself a disservice at the end of the day, and the spirit's just going to sit there and go, oh well, until you sort your own life out, nothing I can do. I'm just going to carry on with my own existence. I've done my part. So there's no reason for them to be angry with you. But at the same time, depending on the spirit, the bond, the relationship you've created with them, maybe they could be. But yeah, no, this particular thing is just a scam. It's very unlikely that this happened. All right, and that's it for all this week. And I'll be back next week with more. Have a good one until then. Cheerio. Bye-bye.